Alright, here it is. Cannondale is pretty much put together. I think the only thing I got left to do is put a bottle cage on it, so you got a place to put your water bottle. This will be a video just to kind of do a little introduction and maybe a little bit of an instruction manual. Hope it helps. So we'll go over a couple of the features of your new bike here. This is the Cannondale R600. Probably I kind of dated it from around the early 2000s. Aluminum frame. Carbon fork. See the detail on that? That's so pretty. A lot of stock components on this. Aside from the handlebars and the whole cockpit up here, I didn't have to get too crazy with this bike. Turned it into a 1x. Drivetrain's all stock except for that nice new chain. Got the wider tires, but pretty radical appearance though for being a pretty stock bike. Very light, 20 pounds. Okay, put the bike up in the stand, and so we'll kind of talk about the bike a little bit. First and foremost, we did change out these handlebars from drop bars to more of a mountain bike style. I did turn this bike into what was kind of known as a 2x into a 1x, meaning we've only got one chain ring on the front. Nice thing is that about that, lightens it up a little bit. This is probably all the gears you're ever gonna need. And you only have one shift control up on top. This side's completely open. Nice thing about this is a trigger shifter. It's indexed. And it's got a little indicator window to kind of let you know what gear you're in. To shift, one click will shift down to a lower gear. Multiple pushes on this one will give you about 2 or 3 gears. So if you have to downshift quickly because you came up to a hill, and then by pushing this, you'll go the other direction. You'll be upshifting into a higher gear. Nice thing about an index shifter is that one push of the button gets you 1 gear. So if I want to downshift from this high gear, which is your speed gear, into one of these lower gears, which maybe you got a hill coming up, I get her pedaling, push the button once, and goes up 1 gear. Push it again, goes up again. Okay. The opposite is true. You push the top button to upshift. One other cool feature about this is, so one click equals 1 gear, but if you come up to a hill, you're in your higher gears, and you come up to a hill and you need to get into lower gears quickly, you can sweep. You notice that I just swept my finger all the way in, and it gave me 5 gears all at once. This top button out here will only ever give you 1 gear at a time. Let's talk about some tools you might need for this bike to adjust it. This bike can pretty much be taken almost completely apart with a 4, a 5, and a 6 millimeter hex head. So you can either get I'm sure you've probably got a set around the house somewhere, or you can go down to your local bike shop and get one of these little guys, these little tri-tools. It is likely that when I ship this bike to you, I'm going to turn the stem sideways to get the handlebars basically perpendicular to the fork. So basically what you gotta do is you gotta get number 6 down here. So right now I'm gonna loosen it. I'm gonna kind of put my foot up here to brace it. Loosen, and then loosen it up. Usually what'll happen is, on a bike that's been recently worked over like this, it should just start turning. But if you get a bike, like maybe when you take apart your Peugeot, that's been sitting for a while, you might have to loosen it with whatever, maybe it's a 5, maybe it's a 6, maybe it's an actual wrench. And a lot of times what you have to do is you have to tap it once you get it loose, and that'll break free that wedge that's down there. So that's how you do this. So basically what I'm gonna do is put this between my 2 feet, make it perfectly centered, and then tighten it up. That's it. To adjust your neck for height and reach, what you have to do I'm going to use my little ratchet here. This is the number 5, so you loosen it up. Once it's loosened up quite a ways, you can actually take it. You can see here it's splined. So you push it all the way out of the way, and now you can adjust this up and down to whatever height you like, whatever adjustment you like. And then when you get it right, push this back in. And tighten this back down. Now keep in mind, when you adjust this thing up or down, you are also changing the geometry of the bars themselves. So you might need to loosen these up with a number 4 to adjust the handlebars, and then loosen up with a number 4 the shifter, and with a number 5 the 2 brakes, to adjust these to the correct angle that you like. To adjust your seat is pretty easy. This is your seat post clamp. Now if you'll look, you'll see that there's a number 5 hex on this side and a number 5 hex on this side. Do not attempt to adjust the one on the non-drive side. And by drive side I mean this is the drive side, the right side, because this is where the drive is. And the other side is the non-drive side. I don't know why Cannondale saw fit to put a hex head over there, despite the fact that this side is locked into place, but they did. So to adjust the seat, pretty easy. Number 5, put it the height you like, make sure it's straight, and tighten it back up. Now you notice that our saddle is at a pretty flat attitude. You'll also notice this is more of a racing style saddle. You can adjust the saddle both back and forth and for angle. Most modern saddles have this kind of standard clamp style with 2 rails. Some of them, if they're fancy, will have a little gauge to kind of show you your back and forward motion. The saddle I'll send with it. Possibly a little more comfortable, a little more ergonomic. Not as pretty, but still has 2 rails. Probably want to raise just to get your tool out of the way of the seat post clamp. In there with a number 6. So you have it loosened up. You can see I can move it back and forth, and the looser I get it, the more I'll be able to kind of run this whole thing backwards, run it forwards to create different angles. Once you get to where you want it, you have to kind of hold it though. They get a little finicky. So I'll center it out both this way and this way as far as level. You may know that the drive side pedal just goes on and comes off normal, just a lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. But the non-drive side, this pedal, is a reverse thread. So that means righty-loosey, lefty-tighty. Now in the old days, pedals just had this kind of normal, you just used a wrench. Just a 15mm wrench. It was right there, you could get right at it. Nowadays, you gotta come at it from the back with the one size that you probably, we haven't talked about, because we've talked about 4, 5, and 6. You actually need an 8, which is this guy, to come into the back of these. Now, so you're still going to be lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, but you'll be doing it from the back. To further complicate matters is, you retain your reverse thread, but you'll have to come at it from the back. So to loosen this, I will be turning to the right. To remove the wheel, both the front and the back are quick releases. So they've got this little tab here that releases. Now, you're probably familiar with this, but you might be unfamiliar with a couple things specific to this newer bike. First, you want to kind of do the quick release on the brake. This isn't going to open it up way up, but it's going to open up a little bit, especially for these bigger tires we've got on here. Next thing you want to do is, best practice is, when you take off your rear wheel, you want to be in the highest gear. That will make it easier to get this thing out of the way of the chain. So we're going to put that in the high gear first. All the way out. And then we release this. And then kind of loosen this up a little bit. And then this is what I do. I usually pull this out of the way and it should just drop away. You will have a little bit of friction here trying to get these tires, these much bigger tires out between these two brake pads, but it should come right out. And then here, you kind of just let it flop away. To put it back in, kind of do the reverse. You pull this guy away. You kind of ease this guy, drop that chain onto that high gear, and then guide it through the brake shoes up here. It's a little finicky, and then you put it all the way to the back. When you got it centered, you got this tightened up, go ahead and crank this down. Put your brake back down, give it a spin to make sure it's still centered. Front tire is pretty much the same. This isn't a directional tire, so you can flip this the other way. It's not a big deal. I tend to keep both my tabs on the non-drive side. So you just pop this out, drop it away. These are all new cables, and cables will stretch, especially when they're brand new. If you feel like you're getting not very good brake tension, you can basically, to give yourself a little more tension back, you open up this outer barrel, and then here's your lock barrel. That kind of goes the same as if your shifter starts to kind of, as you shift one button, you're not getting a perfect one shift back. You get a little clickety-clackety back there. So you can do the same here. This will take some of the tension out. I will say that if you mess around with this a lot and you completely mess it up back there, just take it to your local bike shop and they'll just go ahead and adjust it for you. I'm probably adjusting derailleurs is probably outside the scope of this video. Tubes on your bike are using a little bit more modern Presta style. You're probably a little more familiar with this Schrader style. It's kind of the same you see on a car. A lot of bikes still have these. Usually when you get into higher end bikes, they have this Presta valve, and I'll show you a little bit about that one. So first you take off the cap. And underneath that you'll see this little guy. So when it's closed like this, no air can get out. When you open it up, now, more than likely, you pump at home is not Presta enabled. They're small like this. You probably just got your standard old school pump. So what you need to do, I'm gonna send one with you, is have this little adapter. What this does, it enables a Presta to be filled up like any old Schrader. So what you gotta do is you put it on, you screw it on, and now I'm able to take my regular Schrader valve style pump and use it. Since I've got a Presta valve one, nice pump here, I would recommend really cranking up the pressure on these. 90 pounds, that'll make this thing glide real nice. When you're done, make sure you shut this. And replace the cap. All right, Gary, hope you enjoyed this very lengthy video. Hope you enjoy the bike. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Enjoy.